How's it going, people of YouTube? My name is Tornado5783 and thank you for watching my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my video editing / gaming PC named the Compensator. Now, this is a balls to the walls, all-out PC, completely out of the realm of rational, and a lot of the parts are completely unnecessary. For example, the NV-linked double RTX 2080 Ti graphics cards. Very few games even utilize SLI, and only a very few select applications will utilize and scale off of having two SLI cards. But man, does it look good in the system. So today I just want to talk about the computer that I currently have, why I decided to build it, and how that process came along of what we actually have. And we're going to discuss an upgrade. I switched out the two 2080 Ti's and replaced them with an RTX 3090 Ti Founders Edition air-cooled. So this all started when I bought my first gaming laptop back in 2013. It was an Asus G75 and it had a Intel i7 3630 quad mobile processor, and it had an a GTX 670M graphics card in there with a 7200 RPM 1TB drive. I think it had 16 gigabytes of RAM. And it was my first laptop that I ever bought with my own money. I think it was at the time around $1,700, and I bought it from exoticpc.com. And I loved it. It was a great laptop. I was able to do play video games, you know, Minecraft, older Battlefields.
Ahoy! That looks like it brought it down. Oh shit!
I was able to play League of Legends with my friends, and I even made a YouTube video on it, talking about the parts and how I liked it. I did a review on it on my channel. So from there, I craved more power. I wanted a better computer. And I wanted a desktop. I know I wanted to upgrade from a laptop. I didn't just want a normal desktop. I wanted a balls-to-the-wall crazy system. I know I wanted to go liquid cooling. I just didn't know anything about the parts. So it all started out with me purchasing a Corsair 750D case. And I chose this case because on PC Part Picker at the time, this is one of the most popular cases. It was cheap, it was a full tower, and it had a crap ton of builds already done inside it. So I was able to use people's builds that they posted online to get measurements, kind of plan my loop in advance. So I started by sketching some rough sketches of how I kind of wanted to do my loop. I know I wanted in the front to fit a 280 radiator, and on the top I wanted a 360. So at least two radiators and a single water pump. So in this next picture you can see in the front we have a 280, on the top a 360, and then the loop order. And you can see I upgraded it from the first picture to show my two 2080 Ti's in this picture. Going forward, we started the PC build. I had all the parts and I had everything planned out and measured. So we started with inserting a 970 EVO 1TB for the operating system, and then installing the 64 gigabytes of the Corsair Dominator Platinum. It's a CL16 at 3600 megahertz, and they're 8 gigabyte DIMMs. So we installed those, and then you can see the Velocity CPU water block is also installed from EKWB. And we slapped it in the case, and then added the power supply and the front radiator. And everything's going well until I had to switch the placement of my water pump, which you can see in this video. Alright, well, we ran into a slight issue with the placement of this fan right here. This fan was moved over to where it aligned with these holes, and where the bracket was, my Revo 140 was hitting my CPUs, or GPUs, excuse me. So I moved the fan over, just screwed right into these mesh holes, and it's gonna mount right there with no problems. And then we eventually figured it out, so we got the pump in, and pretty much everything was in, and we were ready to start the tubes for the loop. Looking good in the front. Not looking so hot in the back. And you can see what it looks like with the tubes put in, the water tubes. If you look closely, look at the CPU water block. I actually have the inlet and the outlet reversed in this picture, and I correct it in the following video. Alright, so I was just double checking my piping, and I noticed that I had these two switched. So I had the inlet going into the outlet and the outlet going to the inlet, so I fixed that. So now it's kind of a little bit of a tight squeeze right now. I'll probably replace this tubing tomorrow so it comes out a little bit more and looks a little bit. And yeah, that's what it looks like. So that was the first startup in that last video, and here's a picture. of the inside of it. The hard drive bay did take up some space. I never decided to put anything in there. But it was a good just starter open case, and everything worked out perfectly as I wanted it to. But as all computers go, I just randomly looked on Amazon one day and I saw the Phanteks Lux 2. So this was called the Phanteks Lux 2, and then it got changed to the Phanteks 719, I believe due to a copyright discrepancy or a copyright dispute. So it got changed to the Phanteks 719, even though when I bought it, it was the Phanteks Lux 2. But I just think it looked so good. This gunmetal gray, it had tempered glass case, enough copious amounts of room for water cooling. And I was like, all right, that's the case I wanted to do my final build in. And one of these pictures I found on Reddit, this one right here, it looked clean. I was like, okay, so this person had 3 radiators in there, which was important because this is how I modeled mine. So a 360 on the bottom, a 360 on top, and then a 480 in the front. Obviously the radiator, or excuse me, my reservoir is different than this one, but this is kind of how I wanted to lay my build out, and I use this as a reference to verify that I can in fact have enough room for a front 480 and 2 360s in the case. So I got a picture of the case, and I started mapping out in Microsoft Paint how I wanted to set up my loop, just like I did with the Corsair 750D. So you can see I have a 480 in the front, 360 on the top, and 360 on the bottom. Pump reservoir combo would be attached to the front 480 with a mounting bracket, and then the single the GPU loop is right there in the middle. And this is what it looks like when everything is done. So this is actually a dusty picture. This is after it's been running for quite a while, probably about 6 months, and I came back to clean my case out. As you can see, it's pretty dusty. It has plenty of positive pressure, so it's not too terrible. But just keep in mind, this picture is before I cleaned it out, so it's been running for quite a while. So here's the front without any of the shrouds on. You can see the Lee & Lee Uni fans in the front, and the front I/O has 4 USB Type A's. On the back, you can see the cable management was pretty terrible. So it started off really well. I was like super anal about how I wanted my cables, but the Lee & Lee fan controller had so many cables that were so long, and in the back of the case, it seems like it's pretty good with cable management, but this little metal box that's next to the PSU, there's gaps on them to allow cables to go through, and the gaps are actually pretty small. So if you have, power cables for the GPUs coming out, those are thick and those take up room. So I started running out of room to use that, so I had to get creative, and I eventually just kind of gave up, especially with the fan controller. Without the Lee & Lee fan controller on the back, everything's actually pretty cable managed. And you can see on the far right, I have my Samsung 860 EVO. It's a 2 terabyte SSD on the back, and that's where I keep all my video games on. So my boot drive is a NVMe 1 terabyte drive, and then my game drive is a SSD. So this is the back of the PC. You can see nothing special. You can see the 2 RTX 2080 Ti's. So if you want to plug in a crap ton of monitors using DisplayPort, you could. That was pretty cool. And here's a video of the PC once it's all built and the RGB on. The Corsair Dominator Platinum RAM looks so good with the Lee & Lee Uni fans. And here's just a couple creative shots that I took with my S22 Ultra. You can see the CPU water block, and then the bottom with that 360 Corsair XR7 radiator. And then there's a picture of the pump in the front 480 Hardware Labs radiator. But all that wasn't enough, and I wanted to upgrade to a new graphics card. I wanted a 3000 series, so I waited and I found a 3090 Ti at MSRP, bought it from Best Buy, and this video is me upgrading the PC with a new graphics card. Alright guys, we're about to work on the big chungus, the compensator, which has my 2 2080 Ti's in there, and we're going to drain the loop, we're going to remove the old 2080 Ti's, we're going to slap in an RTX 3090 Ti non-liquid cooled, so a fan cooled card, and eventually we'll upgrade to a liquid cooling card once we have a water block for it. So let's pull out the PC. Alright, now that we have the power supply turned off and the power cable and other cables removed, we're going to start off with removing the glass side panel. And we'll put that in a safe spot. Now this is the inside of the PC. So you can see the 2080 Ti's. Actually, I'm going to just get you guys a close-up view. So you can see my Intel 1090XE 2 RTX 2080 Ti Founder Edition cards, and yeah. So it goes from a pump to a front 480 radiator to the CPU to another 360 radiator down to the water blocks and then down to another Thickum 360 radiator and back to the pump. So we're going to be removing these two guys. All right, we're now going to start to prepare to drain the loop. So first thing we're going to do is connect a drain hose extension to our current drain hose. So this is my drain hose extension, just some tubing with a bits power fitting on it, on the end of it. And then in here, see if I can zoom in. In here is the pre-installed drain tube and valve by yours truly, right there. So it's a valve with a cap on the end of it, and I'll just undo the cap and screw on this tube, which is what I'm going to do right now. As you know, water came out because of that seal. That valve does a great job. It's bone dry in there. And we'll screw on the tube. It's a little bit difficult because the hose doesn't want to cooperate sometimes, but that's pretty good right there. And then we'll need a bucket to drain the liquid into. So we have a bucket down there, the hose, and a chair to hold the bucket. So it's pretty simple. So now we're going to open up the top of the reservoir. Use a quarter just to crack it open, or excuse me, this is actually a Susan B. Anthony, not a quarter. Commonly get mistaken for such. Remove that. And then we'll open up the drain valve, and hopefully this won't spill everywhere. And just like that, we have drained part of the loop. Now we're gonna have to work to get these drained up here, but I have a fix for that. All right, so we have all the water drained out of the reservoir, but the loop is still full of water. This is full of water, the radiator is full of water. So we need to figure out how to get that water out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna screw the radiator fill plug back in at the top. Just hand tight, doesn't have to be super tight. And then we're just gonna unscrew this fitting right here. It's gonna leak just a little bit, but nothing crazy. So let me grab a paper towel to catch the liquid that will drip for that. All right, so in order to get the rest of the fluid out of the system, I'm gonna plug this port up with my thumb and blow into this hose. And the only way for the fluid to get out of the system is through this open valve that we have for the drain hose. So I'm gonna do that right now, and we'll get the system flushed. All right, the rest of the system has most of the fluid out. It doesn't need to be super perfect. There's still a little bit of liquid in this hose. That's fine. The important thing is that this part right here is bone dry, which it is. So I'm gonna just reinstall this guy before I forget. And he is good to go. All right, with the loop drained, we're gonna start pressing with removing the water hoses from this guy and this guy. So we'll start with these fittings. If I recall, I put these on pretty tight. All right, with these tubes removed, we're now going to worry about the 8-pin power connectors. So we'll just unpin those. All right, and with the 8-pin powers out of the way, we're going to flip the case on its side now and lay it on the ground to get ready to pull these cards out. All right, the case is now laying on the ground, so I'm going to pull off this NVLink bridge. There it goes. All right, next we're going to unscrew these two bad boys with an iFixit screwdriver. Alright, next, once you have removed the RGB cables, make sure you do that first, or else you're going to tip over the case and then have to reinstall these, tip it back over, uninstall the back panel, pull the RGB cables off the headers, and lay it back down like I just did. So, RGB headers are off, and we're ready to pull out the graphics card after I hit these clips on the bottom. Just like that. And unscrew the temperature sensor. The cards are free. Alright guys, this is me recording over the video. My audio kind of bugged out, so I'm inserting the 3090 Ti into the motherboard, making sure the clip is pushed open so when I push the graphics card it will click into place. The graphics card is really big and bulky, so I was having a hard time making sure everything was lining up, and we eventually get it in there. But it didn't give me a click, like a satisfying click like my 2080 Ti's did, so you'll see me push extra hard right there to make sure that it is seated fully into the PCIe slot. And it is a 3-slot card, so we're inserting the 3 screws, the mounting screws to hold the card in place. Believe it or not, the GPU doesn't sag at all. It's actually really solid in the cases you can see right here. And we're just getting ready to fill the loop. So we're using distilled water with the Primo Chill Liquid Utopia, Biocide, and Anti-Corrosion. Nothing special. And right here I'm unplugging the 24-pin motherboard power, and I inserted a jumper. You can buy this off of Amazon. I think I bought mine for $6. But what that jumper does is it will not power on your motherboard, CPU, RAM, or graphics card, but it will power on everything else. That way you don't burn out your system as you're filling up your loop. And for the bottle right here, I'm just using a little EK squirt bottle. You just push on it and it squirts out. It's pretty easy and convenient to fill up loops and reservoirs. And all I'm doing is just flicking on my PSU power switch and filling up the reservoir as it's circulating water throughout the system. And this is the first power on, so the PSU power's on, and I'm going to hit the power on button on the top of my computer, and everything should boot up just fine. You can see the graphics card flickers a little bit, and then it turns on, and it will run its whole boot up cycle, and everything posted just fine. And you can see there's no GPU sag on that graphics card. It's pretty neat. That's normal. And you can see we posted to our BIOS, and everything's been working flawlessly. It's been awesome. So if you like the video, please give it a like, comment, subscribe, and here's some extra bonus footage of some outtakes while I was trying to film this video. The cards are free. And now we're going to just release the pressure in the loop and close everything back up. Yeah, my shot was all fucked up because I was zoomed in all the way. Fuck!